Marcus Johnson, a hard-working black father too, had finally saved enough to buy a home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. To him, this house was more than wood and bricks. It was a dream, a promise of stability for his family. But not everyone welcomed him. Across the street lived Linda Parker, a middle-aged white woman, known by the neighbors as HOA Karen. She policed grass lengths, mailbox colors, and holiday decorations. But when Marcus moved in, her disapproval turned into obsession. "This neighborhood isn't for people like you," she once muttered, as Marcus was repainting his porch. He laughed it off, refusing to let ignorance break him. Then came the night everything changed. Marcus woke to the smell of smoke. At first, he thought it was a candle left burning, but within seconds, his entire living room was on fire. He rushed to grab his children, yelling, "Out! Everyone out, now!" Neighbors gathered outside as the house went up in flames. Firefighters battled the inferno, but by morning, nothing remained. His children cried watching their home collapse into ashes. And while Marcus stood there, devastated, Linda stood at a distance, arms crossed, muttering, "Maybe now he'll learn." In the days after the fire, Marcus and his children stayed with relatives. But he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flames climbing the walls, felt the heat on his face, heard his daughter screaming, "Daddy, I'm scared." At first, investigators treated the fire like an accident, maybe faulty wiring, maybe a candle left burning. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that someone wanted this to happen. His family had only lived there a few months, yet Linda, his neighbor, already made it clear she didn't want him around. She complained about my grass being an inch too tall, about my kids leaving their bikes on the sidewalk. But would she really go this far? Marcus whispered to himself. Then came the break in the case. His home security system, though badly damaged, still had fragments of footage. Investigators enhanced the video, and there it was, an unmistakable figure moving near the garage just minutes before the fire erupted. The figure was carrying a gas can. Detectives froze the frame, zoomed in, and exchanged glances. One muttered, "Oh my God, it's her." When Marcus saw the image, his chest tightened. The blonde hair, the stiff posture, the familiar walk. It was Linda Parker. The next day, news spread like wildfire. Some neighbors gasped in disbelief, insisting, "Linda would never do something like this." Others nodded quietly, admitting they had heard her rant about Marcus before. Police wasted no time. Linda was arrested on charges of arson, hate crime, and reckless endangerment. Marcus sat in the police station as the detective confirmed. "We've got her. She's not walking away from this." For the first time since the fire, Marcus felt a spark of hope, but he had no idea the biggest shock was yet to come. In the courtroom, the courthouse buzzed with tension the morning of Linda's trial. Reporters gathered outside, neighbors filled the benches, and Marcus sat silently with his children beside him. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from the weight of what was about to unfold. This was the day he'd finally see her face justice. When the judge entered and the bailiff called the case, everyone rose. Then the defense team walked in, and right behind them was Linda Parker, dressed in a plain gray suit, her hands cuffed. But what shocked everyone wasn't the sight of Linda in custody. It was a revelation whispered through the courtroom. Linda wasn't just another defendant. She worked at that very courthouse. For years, she had been a paralegal for a prestigious law firm, assisting attorneys in criminal defense cases. Gasps echoed through the gallery. One neighbor whispered, "Wait, she worked here?" Another muttered, "How could someone so close to the law break it so easily?" Marcus clenched his fists. It all made sense now. The arrogance, the smug looks, the confidence that she could get away with anything. She believed her connections, her job, and her skin color would shield her. As the prosecutor presented the evidence, the surveillance footage, the gas and residue on her clothes, and even witness testimony, the smirk began to fade from Linda's face. Still, she tried to stare down Marcus from across the courtroom, as if daring him to crumble under her gaze. But Marcus didn't flinch. He leaned forward, locking eyes with her. For the first time, the balance of power had shifted. She was no longer the HOA queen, no longer the one calling the shots. Here, In this courtroom, she was just another criminal, facing the truth she thought she could outrun. When the prosecution rested, the judge called for the victim impact statements. The courtroom fell silent. Everyone knew this was Marcus's moment. He rose slowly, adjusting his jacket, his hands trembling, not out of fear, but out of the weight of carrying his family's pain into words. He walked to the front, stood tall, and faced the jury. His voice cracked at first, but with every sentence his strength grew. "My children woke up surrounded by fire," Marcus began. Imagine that for a second. Waking up not to an alarm clock or sunlight, but to smoke choking your lungs, to flames clawing at your walls. "My son asked me, 'Daddy, are we going to die?' No father should ever have to answer that." The jury shifted uncomfortably, some wiping tears. Marcus turned toward Linda. "And while we lost everything, our home, our clothes, our photographs, you stood there and watched. You didn't call for help. You didn't show an ounce of humanity. Instead, you smirked as if you had won." His voice grew firmer, echoing through the courtroom. "But let me tell you something, Linda. You didn't win. You didn't break us. You burned down walls, but you could never burn down who we are. My children are alive. We still laugh, we still dream, and we will rebuild. You didn't destroy us. You revealed yourself." Even the judge leaned back, visibly moved. Some jurors had tears in their eyes. The gallery, packed with neighbors, was silent, hanging on every word. Finally, Marcus looked back at the jury. "This isn't just about my family. It's about every person who's been told they don't belong. Hate can burn houses, but it can't burn hope. And today, I'm asking you to choose justice over hate." The courtroom erupted in hushed murmurs, the weight of his words impossible to ignore. The jury didn't take long. After hours of testimony and Marcus's powerful words ringing in their ears, they filed back into the courtroom. Everyone rose as the foreperson handed the verdict to the judge. The room held its breath. On the charge of arson, guilty. On the charge of endangering human life, guilty. On the charge of committing a hate crime, guilty. Gasps echoed through the room. Marcus closed his eyes, exhaling a deep breath he'd been holding for months. His children gripped his hands tightly. For the first time since the fire, they felt safe. Linda's face drained of color. The arrogance, the smugness, it was gone. She tried to protest, whispering to her attorney, but it was too late. The judge sentenced her to years in prison. "Your actions were deliberate, hateful, and reckless," the judge said firmly. "This community will not tolerate such evil." Neighbors who once ignored Marcus now approached him after court. "I'm sorry we didn't stand with you sooner," one elderly man admitted. Another added, "You showed more strength than any of us could imagine."